Welcome to this third episode of this cycle of podcasts dedicated to service fields. And this month, in the sign of Gemini, we will be focusing on the field of education, and in particular, new education. My name is Lorraine Flower, and I'm a member of the Community of Living Ethics based in Italy, and your host today for this podcast. As the sign most significant of relatedness, Gemini brings us into contact most deeply with the qualities of love and wisdom. Its sole ruler is the planet Venus, which is considered by esoteric astrologers to be the most highly evolved planet in the solar system. Like the soul, Venus embodies the urge to merge. Venus seeks to unite and blend, and by so doing, birth into life a greater refinement than existed beforehand. When we consider Gemini from the soul perspective, rather than the traditional astrology perspective, we go beyond an expression of duality to an agent of harmony. It is through Gemini and its relationship to Mercury that Venus may express her focus of union and communion. So today we'll reflect on what it means to work in the field of education and the role of the new educators who focus more on the extraction of talents and taking care of the atmosphere and climate for learning, the psychic space, if you will. I'm delighted that we're joined by Virgil Vihaan Sequeira, co-founder and director of Art Mile Kalimpong, Assistant Director of the Gandhi Ashram School in Kalimpong, and the fundraising lead for the Hayden Hall Institute in Darjeeling. And Virgil works extensively with young people, and I know is passionate about education and will help us to explore this topic from new perspectives. Welcome, Virgil.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today for this important subject at such a challenging time in our world. Our theme, as you know, is education and the vital importance of a new perspective on how we view the practice of teaching and learning, especially if we're to create a world where the true talents of all human beings are being brought into our life. Some well-known educators such as Rudolf Steiner, Maria Montessori, and even Roberto Assagioli himself have in some way already given us some frameworks for the new education model. But we'd be really keen to hear your views on new education and what you believe the new educational model could be or should be.
Great. I've been associated with the Gandhi Ashram School. I've been a musician, so naturally, the model that Gandhi Ashram School uses, which is educating students through music. So at Gandhi Ashram School, the music is the center, is at the heart of learning. So I was naturally attracted to this. I've also been teaching in Mumbai, so education is very close to my heart. But I'm looking at this model as music, and not just music, maybe it could be the arts also, because we've also evolved at Gandhi Ashram School to include drama, dance, and visual arts as part of how we educate students. But there's another model that also we are experimenting with, because Gandhi Ashram School is not like just any other school. It is a school where we have the poorest of the poor that learn with us. Tuition is free. We provide them a meal a day. So we're looking at how to take care of their health, what is going on at home, how is it affecting them. The realities are that we are in a rural area. Many of the children come from broken families, so they're not staying with their parents. Many of them actually don't even stay with any of their relatives. So they're with, very far off relatives or somebody from the village who, they know and lives close to the school over here, because we don't have a hostel as yet. But we've also figured out that our average students' performance, and in terms of that, like academic skills, are much lower than that of other schools. One of the reasons is that their mothers were very young when they had them.
Mm.
So there could be a lot of biological factors that have that are affecting them, including the fact that sometimes alcoholism runs through the family. Nutrition has been a problem. Poverty reduces their access to good nutrition. Say, for example, just the other day we were speaking about reworking our nutrition plan for our midday meals, and there was an interesting insight where children who come from families that grow their own vegetables and things like that, they're not really consuming them, because if they consume those vegetables, then they cannot sell it and make money.
Mm.
So at home, they're very, just rice and lentil soup. It's very much just that with a chili,
For a bit of flavor.
That's right, and
Yeah.
they're selling all this. So nutrition plays an important role. Gandhi Ashram School actually has three different missions. One is an academic mission, where we are looking at creating tomorrow's future leaders.
Mm.
I mean, we're not talking about becoming the Prime Minister of India or the Chief Minister of the state of West Bengal, but we are looking at leaders who will lead their local communities. They possibly will take up leadership positions in their villages, in their local institutions like, say, the church or the Buddhist monastery, temples, and things like that. We're looking at leaders who don't have to be leading from the front, but also leading from the back. Giving the community that push. We're looking at them changing, reforming their own families. We are looking at children then from a social mission also, where they're going to really look at how they can improve the lives of their families through health, through certain habits that are there at home. For example, the way you talk to children. It's very difficult. Many of our parents are so young when they have their children that they haven't really matured enough to know what parenting really is, and so they're thrust into raising a child, also building their own resilience. Like, for example, we have students who growing up and of course are very curious about the world, and 2 years of lockdown meant we could not monitor every child as much as we do if they were in school. And we've seen that there's been lots of substance abuse that they've been introduced to, including them carrying cigarettes and things like that to school now. There's a lot of bad language that has come up. Words that are completely socially unacceptable are being used by the children. And so we're looking at the social mission, the transformation of themselves, of their families, of their communities, and the arts as a mission. And the arts kind of, if we look at this, arts kind of is a wrapping around the social mission and the academic mission. It's like a pill, a placebo,
Yes.
that they're attracted to, and through the arts, we can reach depths into their souls and into their minds, into their lives, that we couldn't if we just picked up a textbook and taught them. And years of the government and us actually convincing parents to send their children to school, which is great. Now it has happened. Now that we're moving on from that to actually looking at the quality of education. But really, the arts has a very, very significant role in touching them at different levels. And many of our teachers, they're not even aware of when a child has been touched, really. And until they pass out of school, and then they come back and they talk to us about, oh, this is what music meant to me. This is what music means to my family. This is how music really changed me. And as we say, uh, you might still be poor after you graduate. You might still not have your parents. You might still, um, you know, not be excelling in academics. You might not even be the best at playing your violin or any of the other instruments, but music will always remain a friend, you know? And
What a wonderful thought.
yeah, if everyone leaves you alone, music will still be there. So we're building resilience because we cannot be doling out things. We don't even have enough funding to dole out freebies. And the government schemes, of course, there's only a limit to how much they work. But I think what we are aiming at is an individual transformation which will have a ripple effect on the community, their families, the region, which is plagued by a lot of violence and agitation, and the country, and possibly the entire world.
Virgil, this is an incredibly ambitious vision, and one that really touches my heart. And what I see and hear within what you're saying is the word I would use for it is a very holistic model, one that is looking at all the factors that affect how we as human beings engage with our world and with our lives, but also resourcing these young people to go beyond the obvious parts of the material life or the kind of traditional thoughts on consumerism or whatever, but to come more deeply into their souls and into their hearts. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about what we as adults must learn about education and being educated, because as you've very clearly outlined, these children are, at least at the beginning, a product of their conditioning. What do we as adults who are maybe responsible for young people, but maybe interacting with young people, or even amongst ourselves, what do we need to think about in terms of a new perspective on education?
Adults, if you break it down, different kind of target groups of adults, the policy makers, they have to look at education not as just a standardized form. That is one. Secondly, when we're looking at adults in the business sector or the work sector, schools have been traditionally an extension of the industrial revolution, as you can say, where you're mass producing qualifications. And
exactly.
yeah, what we are looking at over here is we are looking at a child. We are looking at the unique abilities, the unique qualities of every child. We are looking at their feelings, their emotions, their vision of the world. How do they perceive others? Now, if you look at parents, a lot of parents are also in. I'm sure that there's a very widespread Indian parents stereotype, Asian parents, where the child is looked at as the honor of the family in the future, and therefore, the parents decide what they're going to study. Now, if you go into our context, we are plagued with aspiration. There's so much aspiration that consumerism, that the industry has created. The very fact that our students, our alumni, have to leave Kalimpong actually to make a career. Um, there's an aspiration that is created. And we are trying to see how we can fight this, how we can reduce the pull factors of the cities and actually keep them over here, make them realize how amazing this place is Kalimpong is paradise.
Mm.
You know, so
Yes, I mean that sort of respect for one's own surroundings, respect for one's own birthplace in many respects, and seeing the quality of life, the quality of contribution that we can make
absolutely.
much more broadly than, as you say, those more brittle or immediate attractions, the bright lights of the city, which we've all been teenagers, we're all guilty of that aspiration that you talk about. But if we can influence aspiration towards something closer to home, but also perhaps something less impermanent, then that would have some wonderful effects. One of the things, as you know, in the community, we are very much supporters of and teachers of meditation, and I wondered what experience you have within your own school or within your career as an educator as to the role of meditation or that sense of connecting with something more than just the physical aspects of life as we see them. Is this something that you've had experience of working with?
Not so much meditation, but something that comes close to it, and also that how I perceive meditation, because I'm guilty of not meditating in a very traditional sense. But one of the things that we have looked at the school, since we are a Jesuit school, we use some Ignatian spirituality. And one of the very beautiful practices that Ignatius of Loyola actually has very well structured and given to his followers is the examination of conscience. It's a beautiful, well structured thing where you first thank God for the day. Then you go and you view everything that happened through the day, and then what your response to it was. You kind of make peace with things that you did wrong. You learn from the things that you did right. You learn from your mistakes. And also, he adds another beautiful aspect is all the things that you had the opportunity to do, but you didn't do. He calls it the sin of omission. And then finally you kind of thank God for taking you on this journey and for being there with you through it. And this is something that we kind of have repackaged it in our classrooms. So in the morning we have something called the morning meeting, where the class teacher takes the children through this, just to let them leave their homes behind, reorient themselves to the day, and become like sponge, ready to absorb all that learning. And then at the end of the day, we have an evening meeting, which is about 10 minutes, where they go through the entire day and kind of put all those learnings together and kind of be grateful, for all that they've got. Then we have another practice that in our school diaries, we have a section for every day where there are 3 questions posed to them. What are their aims for that day? What are their challenges? And how are they going to meet those aims, and how they're going to get those challenges out of the way, or, things like that. So it's an inward journey that we're looking at.
It sounds very, very powerful. In fact, as you're speaking about it, I'm also very much connected with the reflective part of the meditative practice, which is, and also the things like the review process, because that ability to be able to see ourselves in a slightly more objective light is very powerful, isn't it?
That's right. I'd like to also add that we have 3 years ago, we've changed the way we teach music too. We've added a lot of listening to music. And it's not listening just to the instruments or, the elements of music, or reproducing the rhythm or pitch or anything like that. But it's also to have an inward journey to be in touch with your emotions. What is it that this part of this music made me feel?
Mm.
What am I seeing with my eyes closed? What am I hearing? What's who's around me? And a lot of it actually turns out to be therapeutic and also helps us figure out what is going on in a child's mind.
Mm.
We know that there are kids who are very restless and have behavioral issues, and their stories are invariably filled with violence. But we accept it, and we ask them also to accept it,
Yeah.
because that is the first stage of actually doing something about it. So these are certain things, and I think I've been also reflecting on how on do people over here, given their realities and their circumstances, do they ever make an inward journey? uh, I've been constantly told that the people of the hills are very emotional, and this is also very evident in most of the traditional music has to do with love. Okay, so every second song, every third song is a love song,
Yes.
and that really shows that there is that potential for someone to look inward if you actually recalibrate them.
Mm.
And this is where we're also working on observation skills of the students. I remember we one teacher took them out and asked them to observe things around them, came back to class, and it was a very unstructured kind of thing. And she asked, okay, what did you see? And there were kids who said they saw nothing. So it also comes back to, do they take their surroundings for granted? Do they
Mm.
take things for granted, and only if they have something that is new and very different, it's only then when they actually see the value in that. So yeah, these are all at reflection stage right now, and we're seeing how we can put this together as systems, as processes, as things that many kids can actually benefit from.
I mean, it sounds so powerful and uplifting. And again, what comes to mind is um, teaching these young people how to come into relationship with life. And it's interesting, we've chosen to put this new education theme in the subject, in the astrology sign of Gemini. And Venus is about relating. And what I'm hearing in what you're saying is the teaching young people, and indeed, I'm sure there are many older people, adults, who would benefit from this too, but teaching ourselves to come into relationship with life, our own life, and this precious gift that we have and who we are, and the life that exists around us in nature, in our communities, in our structures, as you said, and in all aspects of life. So what I'm hearing is a very profound sense of relationship coming through in the approaches that you're experimenting with and working with these young people. There's so much more that I would love to explore with you, and of course, we're fast running out of time. And I'm wondering, Virgil, whether there's a thought that you have or an idea that you would be able to share that will help our listeners to perhaps shift their own perspective a little bit more about education, and maybe, in a concise sentence or two, help them to think each day about their role in promoting a new form of education that takes us away from some of the industrial revolution ideas, as you said, and the industrial ideas, and into something that is more holistic. It's a lot of pressure to ask you for a single sentence, but do you have an idea?
I think what really resounds with me is the motto that we have chosen for Gandhi Ashram School, which is "in harmony." I think that sums up really what we're trying to do at the school, and what people really should ask themselves as educators, as students, as administrators of educational institutions, as policymakers for education. Is this in harmony with myself? Is this in harmony with my family, with my community, with the world? Because maybe I'm studying engineering and I'm in harmony with the industry, but it's not necessary that I'm in harmony with myself, maybe with my real aspirations. Maybe I wanted to go and be a rock star on stage or something like that, which stifled is stifled because of this course that I'm doing. Which again is not to say that we should not be pursuing certain fields, but really, I mean, whatever we do, is it in harmony? And is it is it towards excellence? I come back to Ignatian spirituality again of the Jesuits, where we have the motto attaining the magis, which is Latin for the more or excellence. With Gandhi Ashram School, we've been, struggling with funding. We're not able to pay our teachers very well, but that doesn't stop anybody from actually giving off their talents, their time, their everything, actually. And that is where our academic, our social mission, and our arts mission all comes together. It's the people. It's not our buildings. It's not an expensive violin in the hands of the students. It's not library or lots of pens and crayons. It's the people. It's the relationships. It's how we treat each other. It's how we teach our children to be better people, better human beings for tomorrow.
What a wonderful, wonderful thought,
Yeah,
and such a great place actually to bring our chat today to a close, teaching our young people to be the best human beings they can be and to be in harmony. And the work you're doing at the school is very powerful, Virgil, and we're very honoured to have had your time here today. And thank you so much for being with us. And I'm sure our listeners will get a lot from what you've shared today, and I'm sure they can find out more about some of these new models of education that exist as we, as individual human beings, play our part in helping to create this new world. So for now, I say thank you, and
Thank you so much.
look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Great. Thank you, and all the best for the rest of the podcast too.
Thank you, Virgil.
Great.
This podcast was offered by the Community of Living Ethics, Umbria, Italy, and freely inspired by Aldebaran, the community's Astrosophy group, and by our research on service.